Welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm Joy Taylor, in for Marcellus Wiley and Emmanuel Acho. Fox Sports analyst Rick Bucher and Bucky Brooks are joining me. So let's get started in Dallas. The Cowboys already locked up the NFC East, but they're still playing their starters in tomorrow's regular season finale against the Eagles. Dallas's offense has been up and down in the last few weeks, but Dak Prescott said their best version is, quote, lights out and dynamic. So, Bucky, is there anything for Dak to prove this weekend?
Yes, Dak has to prove that he can live up to that statement. Lights out, dynamic. I want to see some of that. This is the final tune-up before the games become real and you get into the one-and-done tournament. And so I want to see the Cowboys' offense play to the level that we saw them play early in the year. Remember, early in the year, Dak Prescott was squarely in the MVP conversation because they got out to a fast start. The offense was electric. They were leading the league in points. They were leading the league in yards. They were throwing the ball all over the yard. And number 4 was the trigger man. Since he's returned from that injury, we haven't consistently seen that same version of the Cowboys. And even though some will say, hey, this is a meaningless game, it doesn't really matter, it does matter in terms of building the rhythm, the confidence, and the continuity going into the postseason. So, yeah, I want to see Dak play lights-out football against the Philadelphia Eagles this week because that momentum could be the difference of whether they start fast in the postseason or not.
No, there's nothing for Dak to prove this weekend. This game doesn't even really matter. Now, if Dak goes out and plays terrible, that's one thing. But if they go out and they win the game, or if it's a competitive game and say they lose in the end, it's not going to change my opinion of Dak Prescott or the Cowboys. Like you said, Bucky, this is the last tune-up game before the postseason. So just go out and give a convincing, steady, consistent performance. You don't have to prove anything in this particular game to me. We're looking at the entirety of your body of work over the whole season at this point as we're going into the postseason. He's at a career high in touchdown passes this season, 5th highest in completion percentage. He is right. When they are playing at the highest of their capability, they are lights out and dynamic. But I don't need to see that from the Cowboys this weekend. What I want to see from the Cowboys this weekend is 2 things. I want to see that defense be disruptive again, and I want to see the run game be effective. We know the Philadelphia Eagles can run the ball. Can the Dallas Cowboys run the ball against a division rival? We know that the Dallas Cowboys offense works when they run the ball successfully. So that is the biggest thing I'm looking forward to seeing in this game. Dak doesn't need to prove anything. Dak doesn't need to go out and be spectacular. For what? I just want Dak to get out of this game healthy and have a nice, consistent performance without any mistakes. That's what I'm looking for Dak Prescott this weekend.
Joy, Bucky, I don't know if you know this about me, but I am a subscriber to the What Have You Done Lately for Me newsletter. And that is why, yes, Dak Prescott very much has something to prove. And I'm not even looking for as much as Bucky is in terms of the dynamic of the collective offense. This is going to be a great opportunity for Dak Prescott to prove that he can win without a running attack because the Eagles' defense, particularly of late, has been stout against the run, not so much against the pass. And when I look at the body of work this season, Joy Taylor, I see a guy who hasn't beaten a good team, much less a playoff team, since week 6 against the New England Patriots. And this is an Eagles team that Dak Prescott had what has proved to be one of his best games, 21 of 26. Yeah, it was a little dinking and dunking, only 238 yards, but he got it to 8 different receivers, and he threw 3 touchdowns without an interception. Now, at the time, we were thinking this is Dak Prescott coming back from a major injury, and it's only going to get better. It's good. He's an MVP candidate. It's only going to get better. We didn't think at the time that this was going to end up being one of his best performances. And if the Cowboys are going to go where the Cowboys expect to go, then Dak Prescott is going to have to at least get back to that version of Dak Prescott. And he very well may have to do it without what he had at the time, which was also a potent running game. I remember at the time, Dak was an MVP candidate and Ezekiel Elliott was back. 95 yards on 17 carries, a couple of touchdowns. Tony Pollard was running the ball like everything was clicking. But we thought it was here and it was only going to move up. Well, the run game is not there, and I do not expect it to be there on Saturday. And that means that Dak Prescott is going to have to be the Dak Prescott that is getting paid. What is that, Joy? What does I always say? Oh, that's right. $75 million this year. Time to make good on that contract, Dak Prescott, and beat these Eagles, even if the actual result and meaning of the game is meaningless.
It's not meaningless. It does mean something, because how you do anything is how you do everything. And so the habits that they put on the field on Saturday, they will continue to stay with this team as they go into the postseason. Because remember, a week ago against the Cardinals, they didn't play great. If they come out and put on a stinker performance against the Eagles, that's 2 weeks in a row. How can you have confidence going into the postseason thinking that, oh, we're just going to flip the switch, we're going to be good, we're going to be lights out and dynamic, when we hadn't put it together on the field? No, I think this is a big game and a big performance for Dak Prescott. He has to play well. We haven't seen that vintage, that classic, that high-flying, that five-star general Dak Prescott in a long time. Yes, we saw a glimpse of it against the Washington football team a few weeks ago, but, man, we need to see it consistently. So Dak Prescott needs a big performance against the Eagles to have that confidence, to have everyone feeling good going into the postseason. I am a believer in momentum. Momentum matters in the postseason. It's the hot team. We see it in all sports, basketball, baseball, and football. The hot team gets going. I need to see Dak Prescott and this offense get hot, regardless of whether they run the football or not. Number 4, got my eyes on number 4. You need to play.
For all the intangible reasons, yes, you want to go into the postseason with some momentum. For all of the on-the-field adjustment reasons, as I mentioned about the running game earlier, the defense going in feeling good. You want to go into the postseason feeling good. But at the end of the day, we can keep it a buck about this game. Both of these teams are in the postseason. So the number one thing that they want going out of this game is that everyone is healthy. You don't need some all-time spectacular performance from anyone on the field this weekend. It should not change how you feel about any one particular player and their season or who they are as a player based off of this, in reality, meaningless game. The most important thing is to get into the tournament, and both of these teams are in the playoffs. Number 1, get everybody out healthy. That's what you want going into the postseason. We can talk about momentum. We can talk about adjustments. We can talk about feeling good. The number one thing you want to be feeling good about is your body. So everyone needs to be healthy. That's the most important thing. Nothing that happens in this game is going to change some seeding, but it's not going to change. It's not a play-in game like it is for the Chargers or Raiders, Rams or 49ers. There's nothing on the line in this game. Some seeding, but that's it. They're both in the playoffs. So what you want is to have a good, solid performance. If the Eagles lose, okay, get everyone out healthy. Make sure that we're feeling good about how we are going into the postseason. If the Cowboys lose, it's not going to change how I feel about the Cowboys. Run the ball well. Dak, get rid of all the mistakes. Defense, have a takeaway, some big plays, so you feel good about everything. But it's really just a feel-good game for both of these teams. We can be honest about that. The momentum is important, but it's not changing anything dramatically for either of these teams if they win or lose. For the Cowboys, it's actually more pressure, because what you don't want to deal with is having all of us talking about, are the Cowboys struggling as they're headed into the postseason? Is Dak going to be able to carry the team with the struggles that he had against the Eagles? Because it's the Dallas Cowboys and they're America's team. The Eagles are not going to be dealing with that. So for that reason, sure, go out and have a great performance. But I don't need that. It's not going to change how I feel about Dak. It's not going to change how I feel about the Cowboys. Nor is it going to change how I feel about the Eagles, because this game is not changing anything for their postseason hopes.
Joy, here's the tell that Mike McCarthy is thinking the exact same way I am, and Bucky, is that why not sit Dak Prescott for this game? If it's all about health, if it's all about we just need to be healthy going into the postseason, there's really no reason to play Dak Prescott. There's no reason to play Ezekiel. There's no reason to play anybody of significance going forward, because the actual winning or losing of the game technically does not matter. It's not going to change where they stand. And that's why they are playing them, because there is more at stake than just winning or losing the game. It is finding a rhythm for Dak Prescott. It is demonstrating clearly that can Dak Prescott win you a game when the running game is not there. And I do not expect that the running game is going to be there in this game. And outside of Michael Gallup, he has his full complement of wide receivers. I see no excuses. And I'm not looking for Dak Prescott to have some unbelievable performance. I'm not looking for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. I would take the performance that we got the last time he played the Eagles with hitting 8 different receivers and a modest 238 yards and just an efficient day, not turning the ball over. So I'm not asking for a whole lot, but I believe that Michael McCarthy and the Cowboys are looking at where the Cowboys are right now in general, and Dak Prescott is in particular, and they're thinking, we need a game to get him going. We need him to feel good about himself. We need to feel good about him. We need to have a performance that says Dak Prescott is now ready to go for the postseason. Because based on what I saw last week, and everybody else saw last week, including Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott is not ready to beat playoff caliber teams. And I'll go back to it. Look at who they've played. They haven't beaten a playoff caliber team, much less a team with a winning record, since they played New England. And that was when New England was still trying to get out of the blocks and was not the Patriots that we've seen now. So they, in a lot of ways, need a signature win that makes them feel like they're up to the task of the postseason. And Dak Prescott needs that as much as anybody.
Yeah, no, he certainly needs it. They need to continue to play because remember, right now they're locked in to play the Arizona Cardinals. Do they really want to run that game back based on the result that we saw last week? I don't know. And so maybe we talk about matchups and styles making fights. Maybe there's something bigger to play for in terms of maybe we want to avoid the Cardinals in this round, and maybe it's better for us to play another team, be it the Saints or whoever may get in at the 6th or 7th seed. Maybe it's running it back so you get to 3 and then you get a chance to maybe play the Eagles again. This is a situation where you're the Cowboys. You get to control your destiny a little bit, win the game, play well, put up some numbers, have a ton of confidence going into the practice week, and then get ready to run the table to see yourself as a championship team. I think this is very, very important. I know we want to talk about health. Health is certainly the number one priority, but the way that you play going into the tournament, it certainly impacts the confidence level that you have when you play that first playoff game.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking in absolutes that Dak and, the other stars shouldn't be playing because they're already in the playoffs. But health is the most important. If you go into the playoffs without Dak Prescott, we don't really need to talk about the Cowboys in the playoffs anymore. So, yes, health is the number one thing, no matter what you say about going into the playoffs. Number 2 is, I would agree with you, the momentum. But that wasn't the question. Wins are obviously better than losses. The question was, does Dak have anything to prove this weekend? And no, Dak doesn't have anything to prove this weekend because if they go out and run for 150 yards and beat the Eagles by 7, and Dak has a middle-of-the-road game and doesn't make any mistakes, what did he prove? Did he prove that he's Dak Prescott? Did he prove that he can carry a team? He wouldn't prove anything. He doesn't need to go out and have a virtuoso performance against the Eagles this weekend to change what the Dallas Cowboys' future in the playoffs is going to be to me. What they need to do is run the ball and get out of the game healthy. Coming up, the Bucs have Tom Brady, but they also have a lot of obstacles right now. We'll tell you, is Tampa still a legitimate Super Bowl contender? But first, Matthew Stafford thinks his first season in LA has been a success. We'll tell you if we're okay with him saying that next on Speak for Yourself. The Rams can grab the NFC West crown with a win over the 49ers Sunday on Fox. Matthew Stafford is second in the league in touchdown passes and passing yards, but he's also thrown 15 interceptions. Stafford was asked to sum up his first year in LA. Let's take a listen.
Feels like a normal NFL season. Obviously a successful one at sitting at 12-4 after 16 feels good. But there's a bunch of work left to do and starting with this week against a good 49er team.
So, Rick, are you okay with Matthew Stafford saying this season has been a success?
No, I'm not okay. The bigger question is, does Sean McVay feel good about Matt Stafford saying that this season has been a success? First of all, he's talking about winning the division. They haven't won the division yet. So what are we talking about? If they don't win this weekend, if they lose and the Cards win, then the Cardinals win by virtue of the tie break. And he wasn't brought here to win divisions in any account. He was brought here to do what Jared Goff was unable to do, which is not just get to the Super Bowl, but win the Super Bowl. So, no, it hasn't been a success. And the fact that he would take some satisfaction out of the season at this point, I appreciate that he's saying there's still work to be done. But it should have started there. There's still work to be done. There's nothing to be satisfied about when it comes to this season for the Los Angeles Rams based on where the bar is set. So, am I disappointed in him saying it? I'm not disappointed because it kind of explains some things to me. What I'm disappointed in is that I didn't get the opportunity to see Sean McVay's face when he heard Matt Stafford say, yeah, I think this season's been pretty much a success. Because I guarantee you that Sean McVay is not thinking that way at this point.
Okay. There's a lot to break down here. First of all, I don't like to pick apart every single word that guys say in these situations. Because if I take him literally right now, as we currently stand, it has been a successful season for the Rams. They're in the playoffs. If they win this weekend, they win their division. Even if they don't win this weekend, they're still in the playoffs. So it has been a successful season. As far as Matthew Stafford's standards go, winning a playoff game is a wildly successful season because he's never done that before. And when you look at the Rams situation, while they do have Sean McVay, while they do have a lot of talent and a lot of expectations, and they did give a lot up to bring in Matthew Stafford, this is his first year in a new system in Los Angeles. So realistically, if we're talking about them winning a Super Bowl, that is a massive achievement. Let's remove Tom Brady and the turnkey situation of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out of the scenario, right? That is an outlier to me, a reasonable person. And that was a wildly successful achievement. Like, we probably don't give that as much credit as we should, that he left. And then in his first year in Tampa Bay, in a pandemic, won a Super Bowl. That is crazy. If Matthew Stafford wins a Super Bowl this year, he catapults up the charts. That's a massive achievement. If the Rams make it to the NFC Championship game and don't win, is it a failure of a season because they didn't win the Super Bowl? Yes. But if we're being a little bit realistic and less hysterical, isn't that a very successful season for Matthew Stafford in his first year in Los Angeles? It's a failure if the Green Bay Packers, with the number one seed, Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVPs and home field advantage, don't win the Super Bowl. It's a failure if Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are intentionally running back their Super Bowl team from last year, Tom Brady, the most accomplished quarterback of all time, doesn't win a Super Bowl. But if the Rams don't win a Super Bowl this year, I don't think I'm going to rain down hellfire on them. Now, if they lose in the first round, I will, because that's the standard for Matthew Stafford. But him answering this question directly, and even the caveat that he put on after he answered it, is not a problem for me. This is a successful season today on, what is today's date? January 7th, right now, today. It has been a successful season for the LA Rams.
Joy Taylor, have you adopted Bucky Brooks' complete positivity? You are grading on the curve. I wish you had been my teacher. Good Lord. Between Dak Prescott and now Matt Stafford, it's all good. We're all good. We're all, you know,
I'm just a realistic person. I need to look at the nuance of the situation. I can't hold everybody to Super Bowl standards. Is there more pressure on Matthew Stafford now that he is in Los Angeles?
That's the standard that the Rams have set for themselves.
With the Rams? Okay, but we can also be realistic about how unprecedented it would be for him to come from the Detroit Lions never winning a playoff game to coming to Los Angeles in his first year in a new system and going and winning the Super Bowl with the Rams. That's wild.
I agree with you. But that's Sean McVay's problem. That's not my problem. That's the gamble that Sean McVay made, because it was, I'm going to move Jared Goff out and I'm going to bring Matt Stafford in. To do what? To win divisions? Or to win the one thing that Jared Goff did not do, which was win a Super Bowl. It's win a Super Bowl. So to me, that's where the bar is set, and it can't be any lower. I hear that all this is good. It's been a somewhat successful season, but it's not the success that the Rams went and got Matt Stafford to have. And so therefore, I can't say that it's been successful.
Hey, look, my New Year's resolution was about positivity, but it wasn't about being realistic. I come from a school where I believe, look, I don't know what kind of classes Matthew Stafford took at Georgia, but I took some pass-fail classes. There's no in-between. Either you win the Super Bowl or it's a failure for the Rams and Matthew Stafford. That's the only way they can justify making the trade for Matthew Stafford. I saw the Rams get close and have some hats and T-shirts and some nice division titles with Jared Goff. You bring in Matthew Stafford, the expectation is not only to go to the Super Bowl, you got to win it. Otherwise, he's not an upgrade. Otherwise, you should have kept 16, kept Jared Goff there, continue to do what you were doing, and be satisfied with those division round appearances, maybe a championship game appearances, and those things. But that's not what the expectations. Joy, you know it. We're in L.A. We're all about championships. No one cares if you don't win the thing. So for the Rams, each and every year has to be about the Super Bowl. You go and get Odell Beckham Jr., you got Von Miller, you got Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald. This has to end up with the confetti falling on Matthew Stafford's shoulder. If it doesn't, it's a failure. It's a flop.
I've never seen Matthew Stafford win anything. So I don't have those expectations of the LA Rams. Do I understand what the bar was set at? Do I think that Matthew Stafford gets a wild pass on a lot of things that he does for some reason? He's a made man or something? Yes, I've been saying this. But I also don't think it's realistic for the Rams to win the Super Bowl this year with Matthew Stafford in his first year. If they win it next year, was the trade a failure because they didn't win it this year? I think there are steps to this. I think you can grow as a team. Do they have Super Bowl expectations? Yes. Do they have Super Bowl standards? Yes. But they brought in someone who has never won a playoff game. So however wild his talent is, however successful the numbers that he's put up in his career have been, he's never won a playoff game. So we are talking about Matthew Stafford answering this question about this particular season. What is the first goal in your season? Get to the playoffs. You'd like to get to the playoffs as a division winner. You'd really like to get to the playoffs having home field advantage in a bye. But you get in the tournament and then you make noise. And hopefully, if you've done everything correctly, you get to the big dance and you get an opportunity to win a championship and win a championship. But there's steps to this. And so far, right now, as we sit here today having this chat, they have had a successful season by step one.
That was it. You just said the two words that are not on the crawl, the two words that are important, an important distinction. So far. If this was an answer of, has this season been a success so far? Yeah, Matt Stafford could say it's been a success so far because nothing's been lost. They're still in position to win the division. And I'll repeat, they have not yet won the division, so Matt Stafford don't know exactly what you're talking about. Don't be Tracy McGrady and think the series is already won and then end up losing it to the Detroit Pistons. But I digress. Nothing's just been won. And this is what I understand. Joy, I'm only going to guess. Like you had lunch with Matt Stafford or something, and you guys talked about this because you are coming from this. I said I learned something about Matt Stafford, and this is what I've learned. That Matt Stafford is comparing his success as an LA Ram versus Matt Stafford and his success with the Detroit Lions. That's why he's looking at this as a success. Because as he looks at what he's done with the Rams, he's saying, well, this is as good or better than everything that I've done with the Detroit Lions. I've hit marks either at the top or close to my very best when I was with the Detroit Lions. You guys want to make a big deal about 4 pick sixes? I had 7 seasons where I threw 3 or more pick sixes in Detroit with the Detroit Lions. That's no big deal. I've been doing that my whole career. So stop making a big deal about me being with the LA Rams who were supposed to win a championship and I'm throwing pick sixes. That's what I do. And you guys thought I was a pretty good quarterback as a result. But this is different. I'm not looking at Matt Stafford, LA Ram versus Matt Stafford, Detroit Lion. I'm looking at Matt Stafford versus Jared Goff and what Jared Goff did and didn't do. And the reason that Jared Goff is no longer with the LA Rams and is where? He's with the Detroit Lions. Because what Matt Stafford did with the Detroit Lions, it's acceptable and maybe Jared Goff can do that. Matt Stafford is supposed to do something else with the LA Rams, and that is nothing short of winning a Super Bowl. And maybe this is the explanation to it all, is Matt Stafford doesn't see the bar there. He doesn't see the bar in the same place that Sean McVay and I think most of us see the bar, which is you got to win it all, brother. Otherwise, this is not a success. He's not thinking that way, so he's good.
Yeah, he is good. And here's the thing. And look, it's not his fault. He's a multi-sport player. I think Matthew Stafford might have played too much baseball coming up. Because you know what happens at the end of baseball season? You have a pizza party. You get Capri Suns. You get like little cakes and Debbie's and blue ribbons for participating. And so maybe he's just so accustomed to getting those kind of treats and knickknacks that he's like, hey, guys, we're in it. The season is over. We're good. We get our thing. And he doesn't realize, like, no, only one team gets the trophy. It's only one trophy that's given out at the end of the year, and that's the Lombardi Trophy. And if you don't have your hands on the Lombardi Trophy, no one cares about what you did. That's a harsh reality. So I need Matthew Stafford to up his game. I need him to forget about all those childhood memories that were good. I need him to forget about all that stuff. I need him to focus on where we are right now. It is about winning the Super Bowl. No little Debbie snack cake, no little pizza, no Capri Sun. We're putting all that to bed. It is about winning the trophy. We're now doing grown-up sports and activities.
No ding-dongs?
No more ding-dongs. We're over it. So no consolation prizes for what Matthew Stafford has accomplished. You either win it and you're a success, or you don't get it and you're a failure. That's it.
Did you ever get the orange slices? Did you have the moms that brought the bags of orange slices? That could not have been sanitary. Everybody's hands in the orange slice. Oh, you got them at halftime? Okay, we got them after the game. Coming up, Russell Wilson wants to win another Super Bowl in Seattle, but we'll tell you if that's possible with him and Pete Carroll. Next on Speak for Yourself. The Seahawks have their worst record since Russell Wilson has been their starter, but it looks like he wants to stay. Reports came out that Russ and Pete Carroll will not be together next season, but the Seahawks quarterback said Thursday, quote, "My goal is to win more Super Bowls, and my plan is to win them here." So, Bucky, can Russ and Pete Carroll win another Super Bowl in Seattle?
Absolutely. They absolutely can do it. Now, they have some work to do with the roster and the team and those things, but they absolutely can get it done again because they've done it before. When you look at this team way back when Russ won his first and went to a second, it was built differently. The defense was dominant. Marshawn Lynch was in the backfield. They could run it. And Russ didn't necessarily have to be the all-time playmaker. He just needed to be a game manager and kind of inject himself when needed. They need to make sure that they build the team like that again, because the more that they've allowed Russ to cook, the less that has been effective for this team. There's a formula and a recipe for how they win the Pacific Northwest. It's about a dominant defense, the running game controlling the clock, not taking it away, and being able to get it done. They have to get back to the basics. The first thing that they have to do is, one, make sure that Russ and Pete are on the same page. They probably need to do a contract extension to make sure that he's happy, because I think a lot of the discontent was about the contract. So let's get all that done. And then it's about how can we build this roster without a ton of draft picks. And last week, Pete Carroll said something that was really interesting. He said, look around our division and look at the star power. Look at what the Rams have. Look at what the Cardinals have. Even the 49ers. We have to have more of that. And so I would expect the Seattle Seahawks to look to make a big move to up the star power on that roster, because when you got a franchise quarterback in Russ, that's the hard piece to get. So they got that done. Then you got to accentuate what he has around him, up the playmakers around him, and they can absolutely get it done all over again.
I think they can for the same reason that you mentioned, Bucky. They've done it before, but there's a lot that needs to be done to this roster. I also think that we're probably being a little hard on Pete Carroll and the Seahawks and Russell Wilson in this situation this year. You should be allowed to have a down year. I mean, they were 12-4 and won the division last year. It's not like this has been a continuation year after year of a slow drip to madness. Like, they were good last year, and this year they've dealt with a lot. Let's look at the perspective of the season. Russell Wilson missed 3 games. They lost Chris Carson. Jamal Adams was out for 4 games. Rashad Penny missed 7 games. Alex Collins missed 5 games. Yes, everyone deals with injuries, but some teams have been able to overcome injuries, and some teams haven't. Let's look at the Baltimore Ravens. I thought the Baltimore Ravens were going to have a great season, but they've been dealing with injuries, and they weren't able to overcome them, including losing all of their running backs to start the season. Sometimes you just get down on your luck, and you have a bad season, and that's kind of what happened with Seattle. Now it's starting to spiral because of what? A specific thing that happened at the beginning of this season, which was Russell Wilson's agents put out there that there may be some places that he would be interested in leaving Seattle for because there was a little bit of rift with Pete Carroll in the front office. It seems to have been solved, but would we really be talking about Russell Wilson leaving Seattle? Would we be asking him these questions? Would we be talking about should they move on from Pete Carroll? Had that conversation not happened and that little note gone public? Probably not. We'd probably just be looking at it as, okay, they had a down season, some things happened, they had some injuries, and they need to retool. But the concerning thing about Seattle is the cap hit. Russell Wilson is extremely expensive. And if you want to rebuild the roster, that's going to be something that you have to deal with. Now, his contract is a little tricky, as most NFL contracts are. There's no remaining guaranteed money on his deal, but they do have a cap hit of $37 million next year. That's a lot, especially considering he played with a cap hit of $32 million this season, which is the highest in the NFL. So they have a lot of work to do to this roster, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. 23rd in takeaways, 28th in sacks, 30th in defensive yards per game, and 31st in defensive passing yards per game. Obviously a huge problem for them all season. They had a down year. They need to retool. I do think it's a possibility they get back to the Super Bowl because they've done it before, but it's going to take a lot of work.
Okay, so I don't, unlike Bucky, I don't have a part of Joy's dress as a pocket square, so I'm not coordinating here when it comes to what we're wearing. But I am in concert with you guys when it comes to your thinking with the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, absolutely, they can win another Super Bowl together. I don't know that it's going to be next year for one of the reasons that Joy pointed out. They do have some cap issues, but they do have ownership that is willing to spend money. That has the money to spend and has demonstrated that. And if they want to get that star power, that is what's going to be required. But they have the genesis of it. Like, they have Pete Carroll in a front office that knows how to build a Super Bowl team, to Bucky's point. Maybe a little bit different than what Russell Wilson wanted the last year or two, but they know the formula. And if that's what Russell Wilson genuinely wants to do, then he's going to be willing to be part of that. And I just look at that knowledge of understanding of what it takes to win it. That's maybe the most valuable thing after having ownership that's willing to pay to build what it is that you need to get that Super Bowl. But I look at Bill Belichick in New England. I expect that he is going to win another Super Bowl before it's all said and done. So if I believe that, why shouldn't I believe that Pete Carroll is able to do that when he already has his quarterback who has demonstrated that he can be part of a Super Bowl winning situation? So when I put it all together, yes, I would fully expect that the Seattle Seahawks, they are at least going to have the opportunity. Whether they ultimately get it done or not remains to be seen. But do they have the ability to get it done? Yeah, because they have a head coach who has won Super Bowls, and they have a quarterback who's won a Super Bowl. So they've demonstrated they're capable of it. Now they just need to put the rest of the pieces back together.
Hey, Rick, I'm actually glad that you brought up the New England Patriots because I believe it is very, very similar to the way that Tom Brady evolved throughout his time in New England. When Tom Brady entered the league, he entered the league playing as the game manager with a bunch of pieces around him that kind of carried the squad until he was ready. And then in the middle of his career, it was about the individual honors and accolades when he had the great seasons with Randy Moss and Wes Welker and those things. But the Patriots didn't win at the same level. Then it kind of evolved back to, hey, we'll play team ball, and when I need to take over, I can take over. I think Russell is entering that part of his career. He's done the individual things. We've seen him put up great numbers when they've allowed Russ to cook. But now I think it's about, Russ, what's most important? Is it about winning? Is it about your individual legacy? Well, your individual legacy will be enhanced if you win more. The reason why I said the number one thing that they need to do, they need to fix the contract so the money is not an issue for Russell Wilson. He can be celebrated and treated like, hey, I'm a $40 million quarterback, so now I can just play and focus on the win. So that's why they need to get that done. And then when you pay him his money, then it's about the conversation. Russ, the best way for us to win is to go about it where we are a balanced team, meaning we have a dominant defense, we have a running game that can support you, and we're going to play very similar to the way that we played early in your career and then lean on you in the fourth quarter. If they do those things, I think they can get right back and have a similar level of success that New England had. Because when I look at Tom Brady and Russ, I think there are a lot of similarities in their career arc.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bucky. I'm not going to pretend to be a capologist. I mean, look, we have whole teams that have capologists that can't seem to figure it out. But if they can make the money work with what he's being paid and spread it out so he's comfortable and bring in those pieces that they need to take them to the next level, then they absolutely can retool and reboot. I mean, this is why teams like this stay consistent year after year. I don't think there's a need to completely panic. Now, when it comes to Pete Carroll, there has been some conversation about, he's getting older. Is he getting, dug in his ways? Has he started to kind of like wear the locker room out with the rah stuff? I don't really buy so much into that. He's a winner. He's proven that. He's shown the ability to overcome things. I don't think that that's the issue here. I think that we are having these conversations again because of the conversation that happened at the beginning of the season. I think Russell Wilson wants to stay in Seattle. I think he wants his legacy to be there. It was just a pressure move. And now, because of the way that the season has gone, it's now looked even more and more scary. That we are now looking at Aaron Rodgers, who had a similar start to the season in a different way, where people feel like he's probably going to stay in Green Bay. Why? Because they had a wildly successful season, and it looks like that everything was fixed. So why would you leave that situation? We're not having that conversation about Russell Wilson because of the way that the season has gone. But I think there's other reasons for that. So if they can make the money work and bring in what they need to make him successful, to your point, Bucky, everything needs to change as your career changes. How you won at the beginning of your career isn't necessarily how you're going to win later in your career, isn't how you're going to win in the middle of your career, isn't going to win how you get paid. But we do know this is a really tough division, and you can't fall terribly behind. As it's growing and more talent is coming in, it's going to be harder to climb back into it.
Yeah, I don't know I can't remember whether Pete is a 60-something or a septuagenarian, but he's about as young-looking, as spry as someone of his age could possibly be. So I'm not worried about his longevity or energy at this point. You're right in terms of where the NFC division is, their division, the NFC West is right now. But I look, Joy, at the NFC as a whole, and I don't see any young and up-and-coming teams. Maybe Arizona with Kyler Murray, but there's a lot there to be proved. They don't have that knowledge in the building of how to build a Super Bowl team. So I can't put them in the same category. Whereas I look across the board in the NFC, and yeah, Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, but how much longer? Tampa Bay, I believe this is a swan song for them. I don't expect that they are going to be there. So what's the young up-and-coming team that Seattle has to look at and say, they're going to be a problem for us moving forward? I don't see it. In the AFC, look across the board, you look at some of these teams with some of the young quarterbacks that look to be dynamic and could be, start with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. That's a different story. So I believe that the way the NFC is situated right now, that's also going to present the opportunity for the Seahawks to get right back in the mix when it comes to Super Bowls.
Well, sticking in the NFC, coming up, Tom Brady is missing some weapons on offense. We'll tell you if his Bucs are still legit Super Bowl contenders next on Speak for Yourself. The Bucs are the defending champs, but their roster looks a bit different right now. Chris Godwin is out for the year, Leonard Fournette is on IR, and Antonio Brown was released yesterday. But don't forget, Tampa still has the GOAT, Tom Brady. So, Rick, are the Bucs still legit Super Bowl contenders?
Technically, yes. Realistically, no. For some of the reasons that you stated. Obviously, a number of guys with injuries. But you were just talking, for the most part, on the offensive side of the ball. And what I'm hearing is a lot of hope that some key pieces, Levante David, Shaquille Barrett, are going to be available on the defensive side. And that's the side of the ball that I am concerned with the most. And look, there's no shame in this because we know how hard it is to repeat as Super Bowl champions and why it hasn't been done for as long as it's been, since it's been done. So I look at this team and I look at the way it's going. This is just the understandable wear and tear of having a group that goes and wins a Super Bowl and then comes back and you essentially have the same group and you try to do it again. Now, at the beginning of the year, when we saw that they were bringing back all 22 starters, everybody was like, well, they're odds-on favorite. And yeah, at the time, you should, in the bloom of having just won a Super Bowl, it's understandable to go that direction. But the price paid in going all the way to a Super Bowl and then going after another one has resulted in injuries that should not necessarily be unexpected. So, yes, from a technical standpoint, from where they are in the standings, from what they still have, what they could potentially get back, you can't rule them out. And in part because of Tom Brady, you can't rule them out. But realistically, looking at the other teams that they have to go through and where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are, on top of the whole Antonio Brown saga and not knowing exactly what kind of psychological effect that could have on the team, this is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that is headed in the wrong direction and is taking on water. So I technically, yes. Realistically, no.
Yes, they're still legitimate Super Bowl contenders. They are third in the NFC, and they have the GOAT, Tom Brady. So I'm not doubting him. On top of having Tom Brady, which is obviously an amazing thing to have on the field, they still have Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans, Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard. Ronald Jones is out this week, but he should be available. Tyler Johnson, Cyril Grayson, who just stepped right in and made some plays this weekend, albeit against the Jets. But they still have weapons out there. And most importantly, most of their team knows how to win a Super Bowl because they just did it. Now, I have my doubts about their ability to repeat. We know it's extremely difficult to do that. But I feel better about it if Tom Brady's on the field. And they still have him out there, so that makes me feel confident about them. Yes, they've lost some pieces. The Antonio Brown thing, I think, is an absolute mess. And it probably will hang over their heads for a week or two more because Antonio Brown is not done talking. So that means the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not going to be done talking because they're going to continue to be asked about this drama. But they brought this into their locker room, so this is what they're dealing with at this point. But overall, while they have had some injuries and it's been a little choppy, they're still at the top of the NFC. They still have Tom Brady. They still have Bruce Arians. They still have Rob Gronkowski. They know how to win a Super Bowl. And that guy gives me all the confidence in the world. So if it comes down to one game, I still feel good about my chances when I've got Tom Brady.
Hey, Rick, who is this in the other box over here? Who is this Joy Taylor?
Why?
The super positive Joy Taylor? Like, I know she doesn't do resolutions and stuff. Maybe she's doing affirmations every morning in the mirror about, hey, everything is good, it's great, the sun. Because I don't know who this is because this Joy Taylor is talking about
you got her pocket square. I would know. You would know better than me.
I don't get this because
they're not Super Bowl contenders still, Bucky.
Like AB going out the door, that kind of did it for me because now you lose Chris Godwin. You don't have AB. You only have Mike Evans, but Mike Evans is hurt. Rob Gronkowski hasn't been a major factor this year. And honestly, on offense, they haven't played great the last half of the season. And so then defensively, which is really why they won last year, the defense was playing great in the postseason. That same defense hasn't been available. JPP, Shaq Barrett have been dealing with injuries. Maybe they get Levante David back. In the back end, they haven't been able to cover. So I just don't see this team being able to stack up, particularly against some of the teams that they would have to face. The Rams, the Cowboys. I mean, even the Cardinals would give them problems. I just can't see this team going. So, yeah, in name only, but not a legitimate Super Bowl attempt. I can't do it. And I know the GOAT is great, but the GOAT can't throw it and catch it. He's not a great catcher anyway. We've seen that before, but he can do both. I just don't know if they have enough weapons to get it done. So, no, they're not contenders.
And don't take this, Joy, or anybody else, as slander when it comes to Tom Brady. But Tom Brady at this point in his career it used to be, when we talked about him in New England, he made everybody else better. But he's at a stage now where he needs that talent around him. He needs a running game. He needs quality receivers. Yes, I know what was done last weekend. It was the Jets, okay? And by the way, they should have lost the game to the Jets. So for all that they did in eking it out and what he did against the worst defense in the league down the stretch to pull it out, the fact of the matter is he had to pull it out against the Jets. So Tom Brady still has that ability, but he needs to have those pieces around him, and he needs to have a defense that is going to do their part. And that's just where that's what made the Tampa Bay Buccaneers special. And that's what I pushed back a little bit in this idea that Tom Brady demonstrated that he can win and that he was a bigger part of everything in New England than Bill Belichick. He went to Tampa at the right time. Let's face it. Like, they didn't just build that team, and it wasn't unique in terms of, like, the talent had been there. It hadn't been coached up, and they didn't have that one piece, which was the quarterback, to bring it all together. Tom Brady did that. Same thing with Jim Harbaugh going to the 49ers and taking that 8-8 team and taking them to a Super Bowl. The talent was already there. The talent was already there for Tampa when Tom got there. But he needs that talent. And that same talent is not there now. So I expect Tom Brady to be the same Tom Brady he was last year. He will be good. But if the talent around him is not great, then he's not winning another Super Bowl.
Not all the talent was there. Antonio Brown wasn't there. Rob Gronkowski wasn't there. One of those guys is still there with him. And for how Brady is playing this year, he has 40 touchdowns. That's the most in the NFL. Back-to-back seasons with 40 touchdowns. He leads the league in passing yards, touchdowns, completions, and attempts. So he's playing pretty well for an old man who is losing all of his weapons. I would say he's still elevating. He's still elevating.
You're grading on a curve again, Joy.
I'm not grading on a curve. What curve? He has the most touchdown passes in the league. He leads the league in completions and attempts. He's leading the league. Old or not? Old or not?
Is he the best? Is he the best? Is he the best quarterback in the league right now?
He has the second best odds to win MVP.
But it's
Like, what are we talking about?
Really what are we talking about?
We have got to stop being so hysterical about this. Tom Brady is still elevating players around him. He still has that ability. Tom Brady is having a great season. Did they lose some important pieces? Yes. Is this Antonio Brown situation a complete disaster? Might it have some bearing of a season with all the drama? Sure. But they're absolutely still Super Bowl contenders. How many of these teams in the NFC are you taking over them in a head-to-head game right now? Like, you got to put your own money on the line, all right, pretending that you guys gamble. I do. So who are you taking over them? The Packers? You feel great about the Packers if they're playing this weekend. It's for all the marbles, right? Packers are playing better right now. The Rams? Matthew Stafford's never won a playoff game. I'm not taking the Rams over Tom Brady and the Buccaneers right now.
Defensively, I'm taking the Rams.
I'll take the Rams. I'll take the Rams.
You know what? It's Friday. You guys, you're playing with me. No, you're not.
The only team I wouldn't take right now would be the Eagles. Maybe the Eagles. The Eagles and the Saints. I wouldn't take them.
That's the only team. Wow.
That's the only thing. Because right now, when I look at the Bucs, you know who they are, Rick? You know who they are? Right now, they are the L.A. Lakers and LeBron. Tom Brady is LeBron James, and he doesn't have the talent around him to elevate it. And so the issues that we have with the Lakers are the same issues that we have with the Bucs.
That's a good comparison.
We expect LeBron to elevate this team. But at that age, you can't do it anymore. When we look at the Bucs, it's the same thing. Tom Brady's great. Wow. Tom Brady can be in the MVP race, but Tom Brady's not going to elevate this crew. Because look, Tom Brady's playing with AD, Russell Westbrook, and all those other guys. Well, we got Russell out there, but he's playing with the same crew. It's the same thing. Tom Brady and LeBron James are synonymous right now. It's the same argument. So if the Bucs are Super Bowl contenders, then the Lakers are World Championship contenders. It's the same. That's what it is.
Bucky.
I don't like both of them.
Point Bucky. Bring in the NBA comparison. I must be rubbing off on you. It's because our boxes are next to each other.
Cyril Grayson caught a game-winning touchdown. He's not elevating no one around us. This is fine. All right, well, we're heading into the final week of the regular season. So, Bucky, who will be in the NFC Championship game then?
Oh, this is easy. The Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. That's easy. You can put that in. I know, Joy, you like to gamble. Go ahead and run to the books with that. Cowboys, Packers. I won't give you the winner, but I think the winner will be the team with the star on it. But that's what it is.
I also agree with you. It's easy on the Packers. But no, I'm going to go with the Bucs. I'm going with the Buccaneers. I'm going with Tom Brady. I've spent a considerable amount of my entire life picking against Tom Brady. I've failed every single time. I don't do it anymore. I do think it's going to be the Packers in the Super Bowl, but I'm going to go Bucs-Packers.
Yeah, I'm going to go Packers too. There's always, there's always the chance, Joy, that it'll finally turn around when it comes to Tom Brady. But I'm going to go Packers and Cardinals because I believe you said something, Bucky, about a star. You're right. The star is going to win, and that's Kyler Murray with the Arizona Cardinals. That's the star that's going to win. That's the difference maker, other than Aaron Rodgers when it comes to quarterback in the NFC.
You know what's
Wow.
so great about this? We're going to see. I can't wait to see.
We're going to keep these receipts. Keep the receipts.
Keep the receipts. It's
Keep the
it's the
receipts.
best
All right.
soap opera in the world. Coming up, the Cowboys and Rams could both be on upset alert this weekend. We'll tell you which team is more likely to end up with an L next on Speak for Yourself. The Cowboys and Rams are already in the playoffs, but seeding in the NFC is still in flux. The Cowboys are favored by 4 points over the Eagles tomorrow on the road. And the Rams are favored by 4.5 points at home Sunday against the 49ers, according to Fox Bet Sportsbook. We're joined now by Fox NFL analyst TJ Hushmanzada. So, TJ, who is more likely to be upset, the Cowboys or the Rams?
This seems like a fairly easy question. Who's more likely to be upset? The team that has beaten one team 5 times in a row. So obviously, I'm going to go with the Rams are on upset alert. The Eagles, I don't even see them being able to beat the Cowboys unless the Cowboys set a ton of players. The San Francisco 49ers need to get in the playoffs. They need this win. And they've proven for the last 5 games that they're a better football team than the Los Angeles Rams. You go back to the first game. The 49ers ran the ball every play on first down in the first half. They didn't throw the ball not once on first down. Ran the ball 68% of the time, and they gashed the Rams. And so for me, who's on upset alert, who's more likely to be upset, it's the Los Angeles Rams because it seems as if the San Francisco 49ers has their number with 5 victories in a row.
Yeah, I agree with you, TJ. And the Cowboys-Eagles game is just not as important to either of those teams. They're both in the postseason. That's not the case with the Rams and the 49ers. The Rams are playing for the division and the Niners are playing to get in. So just the stakes alone is going to make this a more important game with more on the line. And the Rams don't beat the Niners. Like, that's what it is. They won the last 5 matchups. You look at the points per game comparison to the Rams. For the Niners, 26.4, 16.8 yards per game, 347 to 290, third down percentage, 41 to 28. It's not even comparable. And I think part of this is because the Niners are a very physical team. Now, there's a lot going on with the Niners internally. Obviously, Jimmy G has an injury to his hand, so we don't know how much he's going to play in this game. I would feel much better about this if Jimmy G was healthier. We know he's probably still going to play, but if he was not in a lot of pain, so we might see a little bit of Trey Lance. Trent Williams is a question. So there's a lot going into this that's still up in the air, but at the end of the day, they have their number.
Which is why it's hard for me to even look at that game as an upset if the 49ers win. So I'm going to say that the Cowboys are more likely to be upset. And it's because these are not the Cowboys, the same Cowboys that beat the Eagles by 20 points back in week 3 of the season. This is a Cowboys team that has struggled to run the ball against teams that are less effective against the run than the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but one of the reasons that the Eagles are where they are at 9-7 is because their rush defense has been on point. Second in the league since week 12. I believe they're 7th overall. It's a better rush defense than anything that the Cowboys have faced in the last 3 weeks. And it hasn't been just of late. 8 out of the last 9 games, the Eagles defense hasn't allowed more than 100 yards in rushing. So I look at the struggles that the Cowboys have, and I look at how the Philadelphia Eagles are built and have been winning. And I'm going to say that there's a better chance that the Cowboys get upset. Again, the whole Jimmy G thing certainly throws a wrinkle in this. He wasn't the catalyst the last time that they met, but he was efficient, and it was one of his better games. And you throw Trey Lance in there, and to me, that's a complete wild card. So when I add it all together, where things stand with the 49ers versus the Rams, even in spite of their previous success, and what the Eagles are doing right now versus what the Cowboys are not doing, I think there's a great chance that the Cowboys get upset.
Hey, Slick Rick, I got 2 things for you. The Rams are 4 points favorites, so it would have to be an upset when the underdog wins.
I know. Technically, it would be an upset, but you know what I'm saying. None of us would be.
100%.
Would you be surprised if the 49ers won going into this game? I can't believe it. The 49ers won, as opposed to the Eagles won. Oh my God, they did.
For the Rams, I would be. I would be, because the Rams have a lot on the line. They can host 2 home playoff games. And also the Cowboys. Trayvon Diggs will not be playing. Tony Pollard will not be playing. Jaron Kearse will not be playing. So the Cowboys will be without key players in this game. Should they still be able to win this game? I believe so. But the Rams have a lot to play for. You do not want to go on the road this second playoff game. You just don't want to do it. You want to play at home in the confines of a stadium that you're very familiar with. They have a lot on the line. Yeah, and the 49ers do as well. But when you're a good team, it's really hard to lose to somebody in the same opponent 6 games in a row. So to me, that's what makes it even more paramount that the Rams are going to come prepared, is because 6 games in a row in the National Football League to lose to one opponent straight, that's tough.
Yeah, I know they're going to come prepared, but McVay always has them prepared, and they still can't seem to find a way to beat the Niners. So that's why I feel like this is more of an upset. Also, again, with the Cowboys and Eagles, if the Eagles won a close game over the Cowboys, would it really be a wild upset? Technically, it is an upset, but no, it would not be that shocking for all the reasons you just mentioned, Rick, especially the run game. Now, I think that the Dallas Cowboys want to go into the postseason with some momentum. So despite the pieces that they're going to be missing, and the Eagles are going to be missing some pieces due to COVID as well, they're going to bring their best games. But there's just more on the line in this game. And that's, again, why I think that the Niners will win. They're trying to get into the playoffs. They're going to bring everything they got. The Jimmy G thing is concerning, but I'm going with the Niners in this game, and I think it's going to be more of an upset.
TJ, I got to tell you, the Rams collectively might be looking at this as a big game, but Matt Stafford is not. According to Matt Stafford, this has already been a successful season. They've already won the division. Everything is good. So they collectively might have something on the line and feel some pressure to get something done. Apparently, Matt Stafford does not, because he says that this season has already been a success. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I can't tell you. I was going to come up with something as to explain Matt Stafford. We already did that in a previous segment. The reality is I'm going to go back to it. Depending on where Jimmy G is, the 49ers there's nothing to me that says that the Rams are ready to change the equation against the 49ers. What part of this do you look at? Is it Matt Stafford? Because, he was part of the previous time that they lost, right? This season. So I don't see any reason to look at this and say that it would be absolutely shocking if the Rams lost to the 49ers, in spite of where they are and what they've done this season.
I'll say this in regards to Matthew Stafford. He threw 2 interceptions that first game. One of them, I'm okay with. The deep ball he threw to OBJ, they get the ball on the 5-yard line. No big deal. The other one, he throws a screen to Tyler Higbee, really bounces off his hands into the defender's hands of the 49ers. They return it for a touchdown. So that's really not his fault, but that's an interception that goes on his slate. I truly believe it's very important for Raheem Morris to shut this run game down. I'm watching the first game, and I'm like, they're not throwing the ball, coach. Like, put 8 in the box. Put Jalen Ramsey on Kittle or Debo. Take somebody out of the game. And so I believe he will do those things. And if not, it's what you said. It's not an upset. But when the Rams are favored and they have a ton to play for, they lose this game, it's a huge upset in my opinion.
Well, coming up, a college star was just offered $1 million to play at Eastern Michigan. We'll tell you if this is sustainable for college football next on Speak for Yourself. College quarterback Caleb Williams could be getting seriously paid. Former NFL quarterback Charlie Batch tweeted, Williams should consider transferring to Eastern Michigan, adding Game Above Capital, a firm Batch works with, would pay him $1 million for 1 year. Williams played at Oklahoma last season, but is currently in the transfer portal. So, TJ, how sustainable is the NIL system for college football?
Oh, it's very sustainable for the halves. I don't know about the have-nots. I want to ask Charlie Batch this. Game Above Capital is prepared to pay Caleb Williams $1 million for 1 year. Well, Caleb cannot enter the draft after this 1 year, so you're going to pay him another $1 million a year after? That's what I want to know. But I look at it like this. The president of the NCAA, Mark Emmert, makes $3 million a year. I'm sure we all know what Nick Saban and what Mel Tucker just signed for, and what Brian Kelly just received at LSU, and what Lincoln Riley just got at SC. If these coaches can make this type of money on the backs of these kids, because that's what it is. It's on the backs of these kids and recruiting the best players. The players should be able to capitalize and earn money off of themselves. And so it's look at Texas A&M, one of the best recruiting classes in the history of college football. And we ask why. Oh, their boosters ponied up the money for the NIL to pay these kids. And so if the coaches, and I didn't even bring up what these coaches make so much money. And it really boils down to, do I have the best players on my team, and are we winning games? And so I'm happy for these kids that they can make some money off of themselves instead of everybody else making money off of them. But there's coaches like Jimbo Fisher, $70-80 million at Texas A&M. And so I hope it's sustainable because it's great for the kids.
I don't really get where the conversation about what the sustainability of it even is. Like, these are not children. They are not literally children. These are young men and young women who, if they were not playing a college sport, would be out in the workforce in some capacity, or would be building their own social media brands, as everyone does, and possibly be making money off of that. In many ways, this is not even a distraction from what it is that they're doing. It's actually benefiting them, because most of it is just appearances or social media posts that they're getting these endorsements for. So it's actually very minimal work on the part of these college athletes. We've all had conversations for years and years about the system that college athletes are in. TJ, you know very well, you can't make money. You couldn't have a job. You couldn't work in a landscaping company over the summer if you were a scholarship athlete. It was egregious, these rules and regulations that they had on these kids. What is the issue? The haves have always had more. Hasn't Texas A&M always gotten good recruits? Hasn't the SEC always gotten good recruits? Hasn't Auburn always gotten good players? Bama, all of these places, because they care more. So of course they're boosters who now can legally do it, as opposed to going under the table and doing these deals that are shady. Now they can just pay these kids, and they deserve it because they are the actual sport.
You get that handshake. You get that handshake.
Right. Well, now you don't have to do that. Now you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So now it's above board and it's legal. And the one benefit of this that I think everyone is missing in this panic, which everyone always has when people who weren't making money are now making money, is that these are young people who otherwise would not have the access to this money. They'll start their financial education earlier. Isn't that a good thing? Nobody taught me about the stock market when I was growing up. I didn't know anything about buying a house. That's not what I learned in school. I'm learning all this stuff now as an adult. I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. Now this is an opportunity for these young guys and women who are going into their money-making years, having a better financial education because they are making this kind of money while they are still in college. They need to learn how to get a financial manager. They need to learn how to balance these accounts. They need to learn how to put these huge funds that they're getting into accounts where they don't touch and they grow interest. All these things that I certainly didn't learn about until a later age. I think this is all a benefit. I think the reaction to this that, oh, what's going to happen when Alabama can just pay $50 million? Like, there's still going to be kids who want to go play in California. There's still going to be kids who want an education at Michigan. Everything corrects itself. There's always this panic whenever anything's new. This extreme need for regulation. Regulation for what?
Yeah, the fear-mongering is coming from those who see the NCAA and amateurism and student athletes and all of that as sort of this gilded thing that needs to be protected from capitalism and the idea that athletes are going to get paid. Now, do I think it's sustainable? My initial reaction is no, I don't think it's sustainable in terms of handing 1 year, $1 million contracts to players. And the education for Caleb begins right away, because we're going to find out whether he asked the question that TJ did, which is, okay, that's 1 million 1 year. What's happening for the next 3? Or where do we go from here? And what does that look like? So the concern is that teams or programs are going to be able to buy their way to having all of the talent, which I find amusing because that's what they've been doing. They just haven't been doing it out front, and we haven't added a name, image, likeness to it and made it official. So my concern about being it sustainable is simply that Charlie Batch is out there and he's being the first. He's throwing out the $1 million for 1 year to a place like Eastern Michigan. Can you really make that $1 million pay off? That's going to be the question. Maybe you can, but if you can't, then it's going to slow the roll of anybody else who's throwing money out there for players. It's going to come down to where we figure out what exactly a player's name, image, and likeness is worth to a particular program. But that's capitalism. That's America. I love seeing this happen because, to TJ's point, I'm a little sick of coaches making these obscene amounts of money. I mean, obscene amounts of money for years and years and years down the road. And it seems to me like college programs mortgaging their futures by throwing all this money at the coaches. And meanwhile, the players are coming in and out, and they're the ones that are actually footing the bill. They're the reason that we watch, and they're not getting anything. So I love the fact that this is turning the way that it is. I believe that anybody who has resistance to it is simply under this idea that the NCAA has to protect the student athlete and amateurism. And anybody who's been around sports, as all three of us have, know that that's been a canard for a long time, and it only fed the idea of the money going to the machine and the people who were operating everything getting paid. And now we're going to distribute those funds. And for me, that's the exact way it should be. And we're not losing anything because the only difference is the money might be a little bit more and it's going to be a little more legal than the way it was done previously.
This has been going on a while now. It just hasn't been legal. You know, when these schools get in trouble for improper benefits and giving this money to a handler or this to your parents, this has been going on for a while. And so now what we're not going to see is, oh, this school they're going to be docked scholarships, or this school is not eligible for a bowl game this year. This has been going on for years. Now the NCAA, what they see is, okay, let's just make this legal. The best schools are still going to get the best players. They're just going to have to pay for it. What might happen, Rick, is this. The top schools won't be able to get everybody because these 4 and 5-star recruits are going, how much am I going to get? So now it may bring these other schools, I wouldn't be able to get this kid. This kid is mad because they're only offering him X amount. And so it may be good for college football. I'm proud that they have done this in my time, and I'm able to see this. I hope these young men do what Joy said and take it as an opportunity to learn how to manage money, how to look into the stock market, how to do things, because these are things that we are not taught until you get older. The sooner, the better. And so for me, it's very sustainable because this has been going on a long time. It just hasn't been legal.
Yeah, let's just be clear, though, TJ. The NCAA is not opting to do this out of the goodness of their heart. They're being made to do this because of how the name, image, likeness has changed. They'd rather have it the old way. But the fact of the matter is that this thing has turned and it's not going back. So we're in an area of discovery. We're going to discover how it works and how well it's going to work. But there's no going back to the days of the way the NCAA would like it to be done. They just don't have a choice at this point.
No, you're totally right, Rick. And the internet is really the thing that changed this. When you have kids coming into not just football, coming into basketball with 100,000 followers and 50,000 YouTube subscribers, like, why am I turning this over to you? You didn't earn this. I had this in high school. Why does this belong to you now as a school? Because I chose to come here for a scholarship. Two takeaways from what you guys said. One, the biggest argument for amateurism that they had in college sports was that you're getting an education, right? Like, you're getting paid in an education. And that's very important because there's only a very small amount of players that are going to move on to the next level and become professionals and whatever it may be, baseball, soccer, volleyball, football, basketball. That was always the argument. Well, that's actually a better argument for the NIL. That's all the more reason why these kids should make as much money while they are in college at the level that they're playing right now, because there's no guarantee that they will become professional athletes, and there's no guarantee that they will be able to make money off of their name, image, likeness after college. So thank you for using that as an argument for as long as you have. That is wonderful information. Also, the correction that you made, that you talked about, Rick, that's going to happen is a lot of these advertisers, a lot of these people that are throwing money at these athletes will eventually realize what the ad value for paying an athlete is. Okay, so maybe I give this football player, this star quarterback, $1 million. He gets there. We only make a regular bowl game. He does move on to the NFL and has a successful career. But what did that actually bring into the school that I am bringing him to? Maybe, a couple extra season tickets. But when you look at the value of what I paid to bring him in versus what he brought to the school, because we didn't necessarily win a national championship game, that's going to skew things as well, which will correct itself. So there's a lot that's going into all this. Again, the panic to me is what you said. It's just people that had it and didn't want to share it, and now they're being forced to share it. So it's like, let's just put some fear-mongering out there. It's all going to collapse. College football will cease to exist. It's all going to be fine. You can pay the kids. So it's all going to be all right, guys. Coming up, the Lakers are not near the top of the West, but LeBron is still an MVP candidate. We'll tell you if he belongs in the conversation next. Let's get to the NBA. The Lakers are only one game over 500, but LeBron is still being LeBron, averaging just under 29 points a game. The King currently has the sixth best odds to win MVP, according to Fox Bet Sportsbook. He recently talked about being in talks for the hardware. Let's take a listen.
I think when you are placed in the MVP conversation, that means that your team is winning games, and you're playing at a level that's helping to win games. So if my name continues and my name starts to be in the MVP conversation, then I'm happy about it in the sense that that means the Lakers are winning basketball games. And that's what I want. That's all I care about.
So, Rick, does LeBron belong in the MVP conversation?
No, by his own admission, he does not. I like that LeBron has a sense of reality, that the Lakers are not winning enough. 2019 is not winning enough for him to be in the MVP conversation. There are 5 slots on the ballot. I've been a voter for many years now, and I will be again this year. Five slots. And if I had to fill it out today, I've already got 6 names that I got to choose from, and LeBron is not one of them. I've got KD, I've got Steph, I've got CP3, I've got Ja, I've got Giannis, and who am I missing? And DeMar DeRozan. All of those guys are playing instrumental roles for teams that are far, far better than LeBron James. And if I had to go to the 500 teams, I might even have to give Nikola Jokic the edge over LeBron James. He is extraordinary. It's extraordinary what he's doing at the age of 37. But if there was a senior tour for the NBA, he would be leading the MVP race. He would be in the heart of that. In fact, he would be a runaway when it comes to that. But there is no senior tour in the NBA. It's only in golf. So no, he's not in the conversation. And what I appreciate about LeBron James is he knows he's not in the conversation unless something changes with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Rick, you don't like to grade on a curve. And you like that we answer the question.
Correct.
Answering the question, does he belong in the conversation? Yes. Should he be at the top of the MVP race? No. Will he win the MVP? Likely not. But there's a difference between being in the conversation and actually winning the MVP. For example, Jonathan Taylor, right, is absolutely in the NFL MVP conversation. But when you look at the bulk of the season, first 4 out of his first 5 games, he had less than 65 yards rushing. We look at the entirety of the situation when we evaluate for MVP. So yes, it's fair. They're not winning enough for him to be at the top of the MVP race. But to be in the conversation is absolutely fair. Stop me if you've heard this before. Anthony Davis is hurt. Stop me if you've heard this before. Russell Westbrook not playing winning basketball. The reason why the Lakers are even viable is because of LeBron James. And LeBron James' numbers are better than some of his previous MVP years dating back 2009. which is a while ago. I graduated college in 2009. That was a long time ago. And the grading on the curve part that I mentioned, he's one of 3 players averaging 27, 7, and 5 this season. The other 2 are Durant and Giannis, who are on your MVP ballot right now. So there's no need to grade on the curve or talk about him being old. He's right there with them, 27, 7, and 5. What he's doing is wildly impressive, and he is keeping the Lakers alive.
What he's doing is wildly impressive. And yes, he's keeping them alive. But our issue is not in terms of grading on a curve. Our issue is in the conversation. For me, you're in the conversation, you have a chance of winning it. He has, as it stands, no chance of winning it. No chance of winning MVP. He's having a great season. He's having MVP-like numbers. But again, maybe the distinction is, can we talk about it? Yeah, we can talk about LeBron James having an MVP-like season, but he's in the conversation to actually win it. He's not in that. He's not in that conversation.
Hey, Rick, you my boy, but I gotta come at you. It's what Joy said. Being in a conversation.
Come at me, TJ.
And actually winning it. So you just said, if you're in a conversation, you actually have a chance to win it. DeMar DeRozan doesn't have a chance to win it. John Morant does not have a chance to win it. And so you just said that they were in the conversation. Neither one of those guys actually have a chance to win it. The MVP always goes to the top player on one of the top 2 teams. John Morant will not win MVP. DeMar DeRozan will not win MVP. What LeBron is doing is nothing short of remarkable. He also will not win MVP. But being in a conversation, absolutely.
TJ. If the Bulls end up with the best record in the Eastern Conference, which I'm not saying that they
won't,
but they have it. But they have it right now, and that's why DeMar DeRozan is in the conversation because of what they're doing right now. The Memphis Grizzlies, for where they are, I believe top 4 seed, that's close enough to have him in the conversation right now. We're not talking about down the line. Talking about right now. Should LeBron James be in the conversation? No, because the Lakers are 20-19. John Morant, with where the Memphis Grizzlies are right now, I'm okay putting him in the conversation. And one or both of those guys could potentially wind up on my ballot, which is the first thing that has to happen for them to actually win MVP. I don't see any way right now in which LeBron James ends up being one of the 5 names on my ballot. Maybe that changes, but as of right now, no chance.
Okay, so that was going to be my question for you, because you used the caveat, Rick, of having an actual opportunity to win the championship. So Memphis probably is not going to win the championship. DeMar DeRozan, they're probably not going to win the championship. So
I'm not saying win a championship. I'm just saying be like one of the first.
Okay, so
one of the top teams.
Say LeBron sustains the numbers that he's having right now through the rest of the season, and the Lakers finish in the top 4 in the West. Would that change your mind?
Yes, it would.
Well,
yes, it would.
Do
I expect that to happen? No, I do not.
They coming.
Coming up, Antonio Brown is not leaving Tampa quietly. We'll show you the latest thing AB had to say next on Speak for Yourself. Antonio Brown is no longer a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, but that does not mean he's finished talking about them. AB had more to get off his chest. Let's take a listen.
If Tom Brady's my boy, why am I playing for an earnest salary?
Right.
You my boy though, right?
Right.
Gronkowski is boy, right?
Right.
How much did he get paid?
Significant amount.
All right, so why is AB on the prove it deal? Who's better than me over there? Let's be real.
Right, but don't
let's not be right. Let's be honest.
No,
this is the podcast to be real.
No, I'll be real.
Who is the best guy over there?
AB.
Since you guys know football, who is it?
For sure,
Who's
the best guy over on that team? No,
Playing
AB.
Football, receiver-wise, who is the guy that get it popping?
I mean, I think it's a combination of all you guys. I think it was AB.
Combination.
So, Rick, what's your reaction to the latest with AB?
Wow, it's worse than I thought. Again, I've said it all along. I wasn't surprised when he took off his jersey and ran off, and I wasn't surprised when he disclosed the text messages with Bruce Arians, and because we've seen this in one form or another, but I would have hoped that at this point, if he was thinking that I want to come back and I want to play in the league, to throw Tom Brady, of all people, Tom Brady under the bus with the idea that Tom Brady somehow is the reason that Antonio Brown was on a make-good contract, that Antonio Brown's previous histrionics were not the reason that he was on a make-good contract, that whatever influence Tom Brady had, it was getting Antonio Brown on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster. And AB, you're right. You're not Tom Brady's boy the way that Rob Gronkowski is. You know why? Because Rob Gronkowski has won with Tom Brady. He has done things that have given given things to Tom Brady, and it has been a relationship that has worked two ways. AB, this was your opportunity to give something back to Tom Brady. And what did you do? You dissed him because he brought you to Tampa Bay, and you mocked the idea that he had you come and stay with him. And yeah, is that to influence you? Absolutely it is. It's to say, hey, you're welcome here. We'd like you to be a part of this. We'd like to go win a Super Bowl with you. Not, hey, let me see if I can get you paid. And the second part is watching that conversation. This is the other part, is that Antonio Brown appears to be surrounded by people that are co-signing his delusion. Any one of those guys could have said, AB, are you crazy? You weren't the best player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You weren't the best wide receiver on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There was a couple guys that are ahead of you in that pecking order for a variety of reasons, but nobody's saying that. Antonio Brown is making that case, and everybody's backing up and saying, oh, no, you're right. I look at it, and in some ways, this explains to me exactly why we are where we are with Antonio Brown, why it has lasted as long as it has lasted, because this is baked into who Antonio Brown is. He's not looking for some incident or something to happen that is going to change his viewpoint. This is his viewpoint. The world does not appreciate Antonio Brown and has not, and he's looking for the comeuppance to that and is not getting it. And that is just so different than the way I see the situation, and I think most people do, but it explains why Antonio Brown has continued to behave the way Antonio Brown has.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have any sympathy for anybody involved in this situation, because I do not. We had more than enough evidence that this was going to end up exactly the way that it did. So I am not surprised at all, nor am I surprised that Antonio Brown is on a tour to talk about his grievances with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and specifically with Tom Brady. Because this is what Antonio Brown does everywhere he goes. So why is anyone surprised that he's dissing Tom Brady, who, by the way, is the only reason why he was in the NFL at all? There was no market for you. Tom Brady brought you in. Tom Brady was the reason that you were there. And to address the question from the soundbite that we played, why is Rob Gronkowski not on a prove-it deal? Because he doesn't have anything to prove. He's won 3 championships with Tom Brady. He's going to go down as a first ballot Hall of Famer, probably the most dominant tight end of all time. Of course he doesn't have to be on a prove-it deal. Rob Gronkowski has a personality, but he also manages to keep his stuff together. That's why he's not on a prove-it deal. And when you're talking about the other weapons that we have, who else was better down there? Does he know who Mike Evans is? The guy who was trying to talk him out of taking his uniform off on the sidelines? Chris Godwin? What are we talking about here? They were a Super Bowl level team before Antonio Brown got there. But that's not what Antonio Brown thinks, because everyone around him tells him exactly what he wants to hear, which is exactly why he's in this situation. And included in that list is Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, which is exactly why we're having this conversation right now. Because when you run into a situation with somebody who is habitually dysfunctional, you have to limit their opportunities to make mistakes and limit their opportunities to make bad decisions. What happened when he came into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? We heard zero tolerance policy for any kind of nonsense. There will be no nonsense. That's what we were told, right? Well, lose a couple players. Antonio Brown is still a productive player. We need him. We need him, even though he made a fake vaccination card and got suspended for 3 games. So the moment that you let that stay on your team, that kind of behavior exists in your locker room, specifically with Antonio Brown, you open the floodgates for him to behave however he wants to, because he knows I can do what I want. Look what I did. I got suspended, and I can still come in here and play. So that's why you're dealing with the situation that you're dealing with now. I am 0% surprised that he is throwing Tom Brady under the bus, 0% surprised he's still talking about this. And anyone who is still on Antonio Brown's side should just Google Rob Gronkowski, Google Mike Evans. There's a reason why you get paid guaranteed money. There's a reason why you don't have prove-it deals, because you don't have anything to prove. Nobody wanted Antonio Brown, and this is why.
I mean, let's touch on a few of the things. And number one, I get where he says, oh, Gronk, AB needs to look at just two things. The reason you're on a prove-it deal, it's not because Gronkowski has won Super Bowls. It's because of your track record. What did you do when you were with the Pittsburgh Steelers that they were willing to let you go? You acted out. What did you do when you were with the Raiders that they had to let you go? You acted out. What did you do when you were with the Patriots that they had to let you go? You acted out. So when you act out as much as you have, you're on prove-it deals moving forward because they feel they can't trust you. When I say they, that's your team in the National Football League. AB, the player, is fantastic. AB, the person, is shown to be less than fantastic. And so that's why you are on prove-it deals. That's just the way it works. You point to look on this team and who's better than me. It can be debatable. Some may say AB is the best receiver, and you're going to get others that say Mike Evans. You might get some that say Chris Godwin. Who cares about that? Football is the ultimate team game. We need all 11 guys buying in. The fact that he did this to Brady, when Brady went out on the limb for him, and he knows this, who cares that you're on a prove-it deal? If you look at your past will tell you exactly why. He's on a crusade to make sure he never plays in the NFL again. And I think this just completely solidified it. He's absolutely done. The NFL moves on. It doesn't matter who's with him or who's not. I feel bad for him, but this is the end of Antonio Brown. But you're on a prove-it deal because of what you've done in the past, your track record, not because, oh, he's played with Gronkowski and this and that.
Yeah. And it's his track record when he's had guaranteed deals. You're on a prove-it deal because when you've had the money guaranteed, that's when you've acted out. So totally understandable there. But this is Antonio Brown's view. And in one sliver, I understand it. He looks at it and says, I have more talent than anybody else. So why am I not being treated as the most talented?
But he's
and
talented.
He does not
Rick,
seem to understand.
Rick,
yes, I agree. But here's the thing.
Else,
as you know,
I'm not so sure of that.
Okay, but the distinction is it's not just about talent. It's not just about what you're capable of doing. It's all the other things you talked about, being a good teammate, being on time, being responsible, not being an issue, not being high maintenance. Antonio Brown doesn't seem to think that any of those things matter, and they do.
Well, the Bucs got what they signed up for, and they're going to get it for a couple more weeks. Coming up, the 49ers have had the Rams number, but can they get it done on Sunday? We're making our predictions next on Speak for Yourself. Sunday on Fox, the NFL season finale comes down to this. First, the Packers take on the Lions or other regional action. Then in America's Game of the Week, the 49ers fight for the final NFC playoff spot against the Rams. Check local listings for the matchups in your area, only on Fox and the Fox Sports app. And speaking of that NFC West showdown, don't miss your chance to win $100,000 of Terry Bradshaw's money on the Fox Bet Super 6 app. Scan the QR code now and make your picks with us. We're going to help you win Terry's money. 49ers Rams is one of the matchups. So, Rick, who wins and by how many points?
49ers 24-20. It would be a Rams 2017 win, but Matt Stafford's going to have a turnover that's going to tilt the scale.
TJ?
I had it 24-20, but I know the spread is 4, so I'm going to go 24-19 now.
I'm going to say that the Niners win by 2. Fox Bet Super 6 has given away over $6 million in cash prizes, and there are winners every week. Scan the QR code, download the app, and enter your picks in the NFL season finale contest for your chance to win. It's free to play. That will do it for us. Have a great weekend. Fox Bet Live is next.